according to Luke. Once, when Jesus was praying in solitude, the disciples were with him, and he asked them, "Who do the crowds say that I am?" They said in reply, "John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others, one of the ancient prophets who has risen." Then he said to them, But who do you say that I am?" Peter said in reply, "The Christ of God." He rebuked them and he directed them not to tell anyone. He said, "The Son of Man must suffer greatly and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed, and on the third day to be raised." Then he said to all, "If anyone wishes to come after me, he or she must deny himself or herself, take up his or her cross daily and follow me. Whoever wishes to save his or her life will lose it. But whoever loses his or her life for my sake will save it." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Have you ever found yourself very, very lonely, all by yourself? You sat in your room all wondered, and you said, "Well, where am I?" You wondered what people thought of you, and then you asked yourself, "Well, who am I? Now, who are you?" You say to yourself. Yes, there you think and you sit, and you try to get an answer of who you are. So you get in contact with someone. So maybe by telephone they'll be able to help you find out and discover who you are. Anybody remember the song group U2? Not Me Too, but U2. Anybody remember that? Am I the only guy? Ron, who's 95, he remembers. Well, they said something like this: "I still haven't found what I'm looking for," and then I just added me. "I still haven't found what I'm looking for in me." Now, because the disciples have said, to know what you are looking for, you have to know what you need. You have to know what you need before you know what you're looking for. The disciples had to know who Jesus was. And Jesus picked up their need to know who Jesus was. Now, why were they curious about getting to know who Jesus was? Well, would you give up your life or walk away from your nets and your fisher and your tax collecting and all your Social Security and leave everything to follow Jesus if you didn't know who he was? So it was normal for them to, "Hey, before I give my life for you, I want to know who you are, see if it's worthwhile." And they looked, and they were different than people who get married. Nope. Anybody ever married here? All the time. Okay, glad you're not all living together without being married. Well, most people do not know who they are married until after they get married. When I go to hear confession, I said, if you knew then, where you are now, what you know now about your husband or wife, if you knew then, before you married her or him, what you know now about your husband or wife, would you have married your husband? That's my first question when someone's been away from confession for 25 years. If you knew then, that's when you were courting, what you know now about your husband or wife that you've been married for 25 years, would you have married him? Now, the apostles were just the opposite. They wanted to know the future now. They want to know right now who this Jesus was. So they're not going to wait for the future to find out who he is and get to know him. You had to get married before you got to know your spouse, because all before marriage you're all putting up a nice front. But after marriage the true self starts showing. But what the disciples says, no way. We're not going to wait to the future to find out who you are. Like being married and then we'll find out who you are. No, we want to know who you are right now, before we commit ourselves to the future. We want to know what we're getting into right now. And Peter says, I got the question. He is Christ the God. And Christ in Greek means Messiah, anointed, one who's come to save. Yes, Christ is the anointed, the Messiah. He is the Messiah. But what did she say? Keep it quiet. Don't let anybody know that you heard that. Well, now, why do you want to keep it so quiet? Because the Messiah in that time, that contemporary time, Their idea of Messiah was one who is going to be of a political power. Not a Democrat, not a Republican, not an independent, but one who has all this political power over the Roman Empire. He would conquer the Roman Empire. That was their idea of Messiah. The scribes, the Pharisees, they and the Sadducees, they had their idea of religious leader. That he would be a religious leader like they are according to their laws. So they had this Messiah very comfortable in their own mind that he was going to be a political power with power, prestige, and position, and one whose teaching and religious spirituality will be their spirituality. They had it all wrapped up. But Jesus said, you better keep quiet. Don't let them know the Son of Man has come. Now, as soon as he said Son of Man, what he was saying is, I am not of the Davidic society. I'm not of the kingship part. I'm not a king. I'm the Son of Man who has come to suffer, die on the cross, and resurrection. Yes, my idea of Messiah is completely different than the others, and they're not going to accept it until after my resurrection. So keep it quiet. So Jesus said, but I want you to behave in a certain way. Unless you deny yourself, take up your cross and follow me, then you can't really understand what the Christ means, the Messiah. And then if you lose yourself by taking up your cross, then you're going to find yourself. But if you look for yourself without the cross, then you're going to lose yourself. Yes, you will come alive to the degree that you carry your cross, then you're following me. He who loses his life with the cross will find it. And who tries to find his life without the cross is going to end up losing it. So Jesus is not just talking about his cross, his suffering and death. He's talking about your cross and my cross. Now, everybody has a cross. Yours may be listening to this my sermon right now. But everybody, I have my cross. You don't know my cross. You don't know what I carry. And you don't know, I don't know what you carry. You may have a health cross. You can't walk very well. You may have Parkinson's disease. Or you may have a job problem. You're unemployed. Or you may have a marriage problem where things aren't going on well. Or maybe you'd like to get married, but your future spouse won't say yes. Maybe you have a spiritual problem. You're hooked on drugs or alcohol. Or you're like three friends of mine who really had a depression problem. All three of them committed suicide in the last 2 weeks from an overdose. Yes, each one of you have your own problems. Some of them are very painful. Some of them are very humiliating. Like my brother, who's no longer my brother, he's got Alzheimer's. His body's there, but his mind went to sleep, and he's no longer my brother. How humiliating when he can't even take care of himself anymore. Yes, each one of you may have a painful, humiliating cross. Like Friday, we had food share, and 50 people came. They came from Britain, they came from Kensington, they came from East Berlin, they came from Berlin, they came from Cromwell, they came from Middletown, they came from Meriden, and one lady came from Wethersfield. And she came up to me and she says, Father, this is so painful, and I'm so embarrassed. I don't have any food. And I gave her I was giving out the food, so I gave her the carton of lemon juice, a lemon drink. And then she picked up potatoes and onions and so forth, and other fruit. A painful, humiliating experience coming up to a priest and saying, Father, I don't have any food. Yes, each one of us have our own particular cross that we have to carry. But what do we look for Christ? Well, who is this Christ to me? Is he John the Baptist? John the Baptist was kind of anorexic. He lived on locusts and honey. And Jesus loved to go to parties. He went to weddings. He went to banquets. He went to Pharisees' house. He loved the wine. I think he liked Merlot wine. I'm sure he liked that. But he was just the opposite. And he wasn't one of the prophets who were saying an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I gave a talk over Avon High School, and the rabbi was talking about an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And I say, no, Jesus says, forgive your enemies, do good to those who hate you. Yes, when we look at the teachings of Jesus, it's so different than the Pharisees and the Sadducees who are so different. Yes, Jesus is different. He is God. So God says the cross that you carry is just a little part of the mosaic of Christ's cross on Calvary that's being carried here in East Berlin today. Each one of your crosses is a part of the mosaic of Christ's cross. That is the source of salvation. So you tap into the source of salvation with your cross. But if you don't see the meaning of your cross, then your life is fruitless, meaningless, and suicidal. But if you see the meaning of your cross as a part of Jesus' cross, then it has tremendous meaning. Jesus allows our cross to take away our selfishness so that he could fill us up with his loving kindness and generosity. Yes, Jesus allows the cross to build us up into his own image and likeness. And if you're looking for the definition of Christ, you have to look at the cross. Christ is the cross, Christ is the cross is Christ. And if you're looking for a definition of a Christian, a Catholic Christian, it has to be found in the cross that you have right now. And then you begin to realize that that cross is a blessing in disguise. And when we talk about being lonely and alone, you try to find out who you are, you have to find out what your need is. Your need is to fall into love with Christ. And to the degree that you fall in love with Christ, then you find out who you are. You are truly a Christian with your cross. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.